Chances are, your first introduction to western Kansas has been through a car window during a long trek along I-70, but you are far from being the first traveler to travel these wide open spaces.
Because the story of this place is a story about people coming through. It's the story of the Indians who followed the buffalo travelers. It's the story of the discovery of the shortest route between Kansas City and Denver. When they discovered the Smoky Hill Trail, that's what they were looking for, that's what they found, which led into the Butterfield Overland Dispatch stagecoach, which led into the railroad. All these followed the same route, and then to the modern highway system.
Parked right off of Historical Highway 40, a scenic alternative route to I-70, is the Fort Wallace Museum in Wallace, Kansas, whose mission is to tell the story of such expeditionists.
First of all, to preserve what happened here at Fort Wallace back in the 1860s and 1870s.
Jane Pierce is the president of the Fort Wallace Museum and a central place to visit on your trip along the Western Vistas historic byway.
I'm very proud of our facility. It's also the county museum, so we preserve all the history of all the communities.
This multi-building property is known for the way in which it brings history to life.
We don't have just the stuff, we've got really interesting stuff, but we are illustrated by great folk artists such as Ernie Poe with his barbed wire, one-of-a-kind sculptures, including our fabulous buffalo that's out in the front here, made of 2 miles of barbed wire.
An assortment of life-size barbed wire creations can be found in the Sunderland Poe building for large exhibits.
Vehicles of all kinds, antique vehicles, buggies, wagons, and then also an extensive barbed wire collection of Ernie. Shows the wire that changed the West. Barbed wire sculptures hooked up to the wagons, the buggies. Looks like they're ready to just hit the road and go.
The grounds also boast the oldest building in western Kansas, the 1865 Pond Creek Stagecoach Station.
Built in 1865 by lumber brought by oxen from Colorado.
The main museum houses a vast collection of Fort Wallace artifacts, period clothing, and pioneer items that tell the story of the great American West. The museum also has a representative collection of fossils from the time that western Kansas was covered by a great inland sea. The Fort Wallace Museum houses one of the largest collections of early Indian items anywhere. Artifacts from such celebrated units as the 5th and 7th Cavalry and the Buffalo Soldiers of the 9th and 10th Cavalry were collected over 3 decades by amateur archaeologist Florence Weiser. These relics from the past are illustrated by the art of renowned Kansas artist Jerry Thomas. The modern gallery setting will draw you into the Florence Weiser collection, and the art of Jerry Thomas will fire your imagination as you visualize the struggles of the past.
Just a vision of life here on the plains and the intensity of the conflict between the Indian way of life and the white man. There was a great conflict here. A lot of unbelievable characters. These guys were bigger than life. The soldiers, the Indians, the pioneers, the officers, all these people were shaping history.
Historical figures that once frequented Fort Wallace include gambler and gunman Wild Bill Hickok. He was a scout here at Fort Wallace, along with Buffalo Bill Cody, who went on to receive the prestigious Medal of Honor for his military service. Fred Harvey, who once set the industry standards with his famous chain of railroad restaurants. He opened and operated one of his very first restaurants right here in Wallace, before taking his visions to the Santa Fe Railroad. General George Armstrong Custer spent a fateful time here. Other famous visitors include Calamity Jane. Don't miss visiting the Fort Wallace Cemetery, where a lonely cenotaph commemorates the fallen comrades of Custer's 7th Cavalry. Many great Indian warriors also led their people across these plains. Dolknife was a Cheyenne chief who courageously led his tribe through numerous military engagements while traversing some 400 miles from their desolation in Oklahoma back to their sacred homelands of Montana. Another great Indian warrior was Black Kettle, who sought peace but was betrayed by the U.S. troops at the Sand Creek Massacre. Fort Wallace played a vital part in shaping American history.
Troops being sent in and out of here to either assist the wounded were carried here. There was a very well-known battle at the time that occurred here in the summer of 1867. Photographs were taken and reports were made to Harper's Weekly, and that event really inflamed the Eastern attitudes. The public cried out for the Indian problem to be solved now.
Fort Wallace earned the nickname the fightin'est fort in the West.
I think it's cool to show that men can control their own destiny and fight for what they think is important on both sides. And on a very broad scale, that's what we're preserving for future generations.
The Fort Wallace Museum is open year-round and is an anchor of the Western Vistas historic byway, your own trail to discovering Western history. We are located at mile marker 26 on Highway 40. Experience your American story at the Fort Wallace Museum.